In this episode of Motive Garage presented by Sparesbox, it's time for another project car. That's right, it's another Skyline GT-R project car. But this thing, well, it's different to all of our previous GT-R projects. The first thing is, it actually runs. Every other GT-R project car we've had has started as either a rolling shell or a non-running car. Not this one though, it runs and drives. And the second thing is this car is actually something quite special. It's a 1995 Series 1 R33 GT-R Skyline V-Spec N1. That's right, it is the homologated special GT-R that was designed to race in the Super Tycoon series, and it is one of only 87 R33 GT-R N1s to be built. We don't know how many are left that have been used as race cars or crashed, etc. So there is not a whole lot of them around. Now, we did a full feature on the series of N1s from 32 to 34 going into there. All of the details of the differences of the N1 plus its history and its heritage. If you want to know more about the N1, you can go and watch that feature after this, before we get stuck into modifying our very own N1 project car. Now, this car technically isn't mine. It's Herman from Platinum Racing Products, but I do actually have some history with this car. Not recently, in fact it was a very long time ago. Back in 2002, I worked at an import car yard in Osborne Park in Perth, Western Australia, and this very R33 GT-R was actually traded in to that car yard and used to be owned by a Perth Wildcats player. I actually have a photo of me with this car, and I was never allowed to drive it. I was too young, manager wouldn't let me drive it, but obviously now it's right here and I'm definitely allowed to drive it. In fact, as much as I want. So Herman actually picked this car up a few years back as a non-runner. He had it repainted, got it put back together and got it running, and essentially said to me, look, I'd like to tidy this thing up, make it nice to drive. You interested in doing it for us? And I said, of course. So basically, Herman had dropped the car off to me and said, go for it. Now, there is a few things wrong with the car that we need to sort out. Firstly, the old airflow meters, old crank angle sensor and old ECU have a problem somewhere in the car. Well, it's basically running with a misfire. The gearbox is noisy, the clutch is noisy, it has some vibrations when it drives, the suspension is shot and too stiff. So I have a few things to do to sort this car out and get it running like this. Rather than try and replace nearly 30-year-old airflow meters, sensors and ECU, it was decided to just put in an aftermarket ECU and modernise the car and allow future modifications. After talking with Alex from Birrong Automotive, we decided to install an M-Tron KV8 ECU with a patch harness.
We put the KV8 in, most importantly, for the car to drive really nice. It's got everything it needs in the KV8 in one box, and the tunability in this car coming out of factory isn't as good as what it would be now with the KV8. The KV8 allows you to adjust fuel, timing, you can do boost control if you want. You can do torque modeling functions in this car. There's multiple things that you can actually add on top of this KV8, so hence why I went with the KV8 in this car.
This was also the perfect chance to install a Platinum Racing Products street trigger kit and R35 coils. While the car was at Birrong Automotive, we also swapped in a new and freshly built gearbox plus a new clutch that we got from our friends at Direct Clutch Services. Seeing as the car has stock turbos, we installed a single plate clutch. Some fresh new rotors and pads were also thrown on the car as well. We also installed a new exhaust, an HKS silent power system from the front pipes back. Luckily, the car already had aftermarket dump pipes. The car was tuned on pump fuel on a modest 14 pounds of boost and is a solid 50 to 60 kilowatt gain over standard and a good starting point. The quickest way to fix the suspension was to simply install some new coilovers. And for us, there was only one choice,
And that was Shockworks. We had them spec the coilovers to suit a street car with spring rates and damper valve codes to suit being a comfortable street car that can have some fun on some twisty roads still.
So even though the GT-R platform is, I guess, part of the furniture here at DNA, every single GT-R that rolls through our doors is slightly different. So in order to, I guess, really hone in on a great setup for each individual car, the first thing that we want to do is what we call a set down. So we essentially pop that car on our platform, and we take chassis measurements, ride height measurements, and other bits and pieces to find out exactly where everything is. And then from there, we can take what we have adjustable to us, i.e. coilovers, the arms, whatever on the car is, whatever is on the car that we can play with, and we design a setup from there. One of the first things that we need to look at when we're designing a setup for any car is the wheel and tyre package. So is this more of a road setup where it's got an 18-inch wheel on it, or is it more of a performance drag style setup where it's got a 15 or a 16-inch wheel and quite a large sidewall? So that's the first thing that we look at. If it has a roll cage, that'll come into the scaling aspect of the car. We need to look at where that weight is around the car in order to determine, one, how we're going to scale it, two, our spring rates, three, the travel that we allow in the shock absorber, other bits and pieces like that. So it's quite involved. The first thing that we want to do is kind of massage everything to where we want it. So we get the rake of the car that we want, we get an approximate alignment just by eye sort of thing, so that we know where the chassis is sitting. And then from there we can throw the strings, the camber plates, everything like that on the car, and we can start to really fine tune each axle at a time. Once we have the alignment itself completely sorted, it'll typically then go on the scales to make sure that the weight distribution of the car is happy or is safe. And then depending on how much of an adjustment we've had to make there, it may actually move the alignment. So then we go back, check the alignment, make sure that that's all good again, and she's ready for the road or ready for the track. First and final steps in our suspension setups here at DNA is to test drive the car. So initially we'll test drive it. It'll give us an understanding of any gaps in the setup or any negatives to what's currently in the car. And then of course at the end we'll test drive the car finally to confirm that the settings that we've put in the car are to our liking. So you know, we're quite blessed with the horrendous roads here in Wetherill Park, which make for an amazing test track. We take the cars for a good drive. It also gives us an idea or a chance to feel out the suspension settings, if it does have adjustable coilovers, for example, and we can tweak those as part of that test drive as well. So that really just concretes the setup for us to actually feel it out at the end.
So now the car is at a point that I consider, well, it's drivable, but there is more to do because I have pretty high standards when it comes to GT-Rs. Well, I wouldn't mind dropping in some Kelford drop-in camshafts, also turn the boost up a little bit as N1s have steel wheels. I want to dial in the adjustable cam gears and basically try and modify the engine without making it visually any different. So if you pop the hood, it all looks stock, but I want to give it a little bit more grunt, a little bit more torque down low, a little bit more drivability and make it more fun to drive, which is great for you guys watching at home because there are plenty of people out there that want to give their GT-R, you know, just a little bit more spice because let's face it, dead stock, they're not the most entertaining thing in the world, but some people also don't want to change the aesthetic of a stock looking engine base. So we're going back to our roots, stock engine and twin turbos. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned as we turn this R33 GT-R N1 into an awesome all-round street car.